Hello, Gravel World.
Hello, Gravel World.
I know we rarely start off together, but I kind of feel like we had to do it here because, first of all, we're both lifetime Sea Otter Classic ambassadors, and I don't know where that came from. I was trying to get rid of the background here.
Oh,
And then also, we both went out at the end of February to shoot our scout preview of the gravel course, and I think we're both pretty excited for it.
definitely. It's 10 days away, 11 days away.
Yeah, 10 days away. Yeah, so week from Friday.
Yeah.
So,
Acrobatics.
I know that we were just talking to Jeff off screen. We were both you and I were both doing the 60, but it's interesting what the numbers are of who's doing what, and should be a pretty interesting breakdown.
Yes.
Courses.
Yes.
So, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a pretty fantastic course. This is year 4, I believe, of the gravel race, and it just appears to keep growing.
Yes, it's awesome. Seems like there's more people doing the 60 than the 30 this year for some reason. That surprises me, but let's go.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's bring Jeff in, and yes. How's it going, Jeff?
Unmute, Frost. He's muted and frozen.
That's a weird. We don't have that button.
Yeah, the mute and the freezing thing is just you just never know technology. But thank you guys. Thanks for having us. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time tonight. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah. So I mean, we're pretty excited for this year's event. Yeah. I think it's definitely. How would you say it's evolved over these years?
Well, we were talking about this the other day. We started as a recreational ride before gravel was gravel, right? We had a gravel grinder, and that was a big thing at Sea Otter. Was we tried to do something that accommodated both roadies and mountain bikers in this new kind of gravel thing. And boy, that was a while ago. And then gravel racing took off, and we kind of dipped our toe in it the first year, and every year, like we were talking about, we've gotten a little bit better at how we do gravel, where we can go with gravel. We've worked with our partner at the Bureau of Land Management really closely to get access to more terrain. As more terrain opens, we're able to get access to it. So I think it's been a really good alignment of the stars, if you will, to get us to this point.
Yeah, I noticed that for this year's course, more than half of it is new over last year.
Yeah, we really took a look at the lap length and the course and the overall race lengths. And we know that gravel is really one of those races that has longer distances associated with it, especially in the lifetime family of events with Unbound and some of the other gravel races. So we really tried to access areas that are not so mountain bike-y that we've never accessed. And the far west side of Fort Ord is more gravel fun. There's more fire road, and that's the new sections that we got into this year, was all the roads that we had never used that are part of the National Monument. We're excited.
I think not only is it more gravelly, but it's actually more interesting to look at when you're flying through.
It is. There's not scenic wise, if you take a minute and you're not losing your mind racing your bike, it is a beautiful place to ride a bike. It is really, Fort Ord is a gem in that respect, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in our Facebook group, which has a lot of people in there, we get posts, a lot of posts every week about Fort Ord. Because I mean, it's not just a place for gravel, but obviously for mountain biking, pretty much for everything. And I could see like a world champ or something like that coming out that
Yeah.
lives in the area and is able to, you know, master all those trails. It kind of has, it's like a playground for off-roading.
It has such a variety of short, punchy climbs, some longer sustains, some tight, twisty single track. You're right. It really hones all your skills and abilities as a cyclist, for sure.
Now, before we go to the fly through, just throwing up the ride with GPS page. But I just, before we go into the nitty gritty details, and people, if you're watching, if you've got comments on your friend the Facebook side, hop over to YouTube, but we'll try and answer them. But like, if you had to describe this course really briefly, like if you had an elevator pitch, what would you tell them about this year's course?
It's to remember you start and finish at the highest point, right? So you get this sweet downhill for many, many miles and you're ripping. But you got to remember, you got to come back up that same amount of feet to get back into the venue for your second or your third lap. So in between, lots of short, punchy climbs. And it's amazing to me that you have some sections where you can really get into a rhythm because they're long enough, right? You can get in a good pedaling rhythm and you can get in a good ride rhythm. But there are other sections where you're always just on it. You're one side or the other, you're looking ahead. But that climb in it out, that climb down, or that descent down and that climb in, man, that's what you'll remember this course by.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Let me just switch this page up, and this is the fly through. And you know, one of the things that I just kind of started to notice, like I just put, like, when I did the video, I did the like 10 peaks. They may not all be the like highest points, but they just kind of seem to be points of effort along the way, and just the way to kind of break it down. So let's go to the starting area, which I think is kind of crucial. This little short climb out of the track, and on the way out onto dirt. And you know, last year I was camped out over here watching the Fuego and seeing the women come in. And I know that it was a different course, but as I saw them make this turn and then come out of this little bottleneck, because you know they were already starting to split up on this, you know, it gets pitchy here on the way out of the track, but you know, when they came out of there, they were definitely strung out once they hit the dirt. And I almost think that I think the first 3 or 4 were the first 3 or 4 on the podium.
Yep.
Is that something that you expect in the gravel race, or maybe just because it's a longer distance, or how important for people out there is this start going to be crucial for the rest of the course?
Boys, you know, that's not changed in cycling after all these years, right? Your start position and your start, that first half mile, that first mile, which that's about on the track, that's critical, especially that pinch point at the top where you take that right-hand turn and then a hairpin left to get out on the dirt. If you're not in good position there, you're right. You're burning a lot of calories and burning a lot of matches to try to catch back on to that front group. So if you can sneak away the front, you got yourself a great advantage if you can sneak off the front.
Yeah. Yes, but you can also blow up right away, because that's a tough climb just to get to that first turn, that first right-hander. It's deceptively, it doesn't look as steep as it feels.
And it's when you take that left, which is called turn 5, you go under the bridge there, and you take that left, which is called turn 6, and you go, that's the steepest part.
It looks
about
like
200. It is, and it's about 200 yards long, and I'll tell you, you know you're in a race when you ride that. Yep.
There's a lot of heavy breathing at that point.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're right, Vic. It is deceptive, and I think because like this is not a scale we're used to on bikes, like with this wide open space, and people are picking up all over, that it just the pitch doesn't read as steep as it is in reality.
Right.
You know, so and then like I know this has kind of been in most the other editions too, but then just when we exit, we've typically had this long uh, descent out, and I've always found like the first part being a huge adjustment because it's the first time people have a lot of speed behind them, and I don't think that it's a spot where everyone is always turning on the jets. I think people are always trying to find their confidence in themselves.
Yep. Yep. You're spot on. I don't think people especially because for a lot of people, they don't ride in the size field that they may be riding in at Sea Otter. Now all of a sudden you got handlebars around you, you got pedals around you, got guys and gals not holding their line. I think there are a lot of factors when you exit the track and you get that first descent, you're carrying speed, really makes you take a pause for a minute and try to get your sense of what's going on around you.
And I'll add one more thing for me personally in that section, because I'm good with descending fast on the gravel, but the time of day, it was like the lighting was like super harsh and my glasses were too dark really, and I couldn't really see where I was going. And I was trusting the guy in front of me to be on the right line, but because I really honestly didn't know. And that was terrifying. So I don't know what time the race starts or what the lighting conditions are going to be, but I think
so we're a little later this year. We're like at 9 a.m. right, and so from Friday's race is a 9 a.m. start. So last year we started at 7:30. So that hour and a half, and it was foggy and low clouds last year. Yeah,
you can't see. And I couldn't take my glasses off because it's so fast and shaky. You shouldn't take your hands off the bar. So I didn't. That would be dumb. So I just dealt with it for as long as I could till I can finally get my glasses off. So just a warning for the light situation.
Hey, you're right. Actually, I did because like the morning, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but it was so foggy. I had my sunglasses and my helmet, and then on the first big turn, somewhere I realized I had lost them. So I think definitely. So I had to do the whole race like this, but yeah, definitely like because the sun is probably coming up right at you in that direction from the east.
Correct.
So having the right eyewear, I use the ones that kind of go in and out. The transitions are
it's crucial.
And then and then when we get off the turn here, like the downhill gets even faster. And really, like I was saying, like this is where you may touch your brakes you probably will touch your brakes for the first time of the day, making these big sweeping turns. And one of the things I've been guilty of is running with too high of tire pressure. I think that's kind of like hurt me and my confidence coming down this part here because it's fast. It feels a little slippery, but it's a nice and smooth surface here. But I think that we've been getting all these these articles about going lower on the tire pressure. Going a little bit wider doesn't hurting you. And I think that this section here is where doing your science will pay off the most.
Absolutely. Tire choice on this first section, loose over hard, high speed. I totally am with you on that. I started riding gravel back in the day when I was riding 38s and those were wide. Now I'm riding 45s because I just feel better on a 45 on this kind of surface. It makes me, and the type of tread pattern you have makes a big difference as well. So do your homework, think about it. Is it a full-on semi-slick kind of tread pattern? No. Is it full-on knobby, hardcore mudded? No. Is it something in between? Probably. Yeah, probably.
So for those that don't know, explain what you mean by loose over hard.
So underneath is like pavement, and literally it is really hard dirt. But on top, there's that part that is gravelly that gets worn off with use. The more you ride it, the more people hike it, the more traffic there is on that of all sorts. It develops a fine, like sandpaper on top, and that's really loose. And so if your tire doesn't bite well, or it's not wide enough to bite well, you feel like you're skating on it, going downhill sometimes in a corner. And that's what loose over hard to me means.
Yeah. And quickly, onto this real quickly. This route's different this year. It's a complete loop. It's not like last year where we had the finish line outside of the course. The start is the finish line. So we'll get to that later on in the video. So then, like, I really like this backside over here by the village. It's pretty flat.
Yes.
Small pitches, but it's kind of like, it gives you a good chance to catch your breath. And then, then these, punchy climbs start. And it's funny because the climb here, it starts off with dirt, but then when you hit the pavement, it gets to be a little sticky and definitely a lot more effort towards the top.
Yes.
You mean
it's the first time
once you pass that lake you're talking about?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was definitely punchy.
It's the first time we've gotten access to that, what I call the lower end of the course, because of the neighborhoods there and the amount of other trail users. We've always resisted going down there just because we want to be good neighbors to everybody out on a hike and all sorts of stuff. So this year we threw it in, and you're right. I like the transition from descent to flat. Gives you time to get yourself situated. You're in a good race pace. But you're right. When you hit that pavement from the dirt, it is so sticky, that pitch. And it's a right-hander, right? It's a right-hander and then a slight left, and you're still climbing. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's different pavement surfaces here, but it feels a little bit stickier on there. So I understand why some people may want to go with a little bit more air pressure, but I think like it'll pay off in other parts.
Yep.
Now, this descent here, I don't know if it's the fastest descent, but it sure feels like it.
Sure close. Yep.
Yeah, but then this sharp left-hand turn, and it was funny when Vic and I made the video. I told Vic I was filming him at the bottom.
I blew right past it.
Turn.
I blew right past it.
So yeah, it's a hard left. Now, mind you, when I did the video, I saw like in other editions, there's plenty of signs, so it's not like there's no warning out there. But definitely, some people might overestimate it. I do think you can let go of the brakes and really go as fast as you can. But as you kind of start to have this little curve right here, you have to start taking care of your velocity and getting prepped for that big left.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
You better brake for that turn. You're not going to make it.
And that transition from the pavement to the dirt there is not the best. So yeah, you better be in good body position and good bike position and speed to make that left-hander. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now there's 2 aid stations along the course. This is the first, and if people will probably recognize it, there's always a slew of volunteers out there handing out water. I'm guessing people might skip it on lap 1. This being probably about 6-7 miles in. Although they have the cups, so I just say, hey, I always take the water if it's free and available water. Especially if they're in the cups and saves you the time of having to stop. Then I've always been able to do that. Then we've got this little hairpin turn. It's pretty flattish here, but then I think the big note is coming out of the hairpins and getting back on the road here, and I think this is about a third of a mile climb. It gets pitchy, but like I think here it's super important that you just have as much momentum as you have coming out of this curve and really blasting your way up here.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we weren't
on the gas right there. Yes.
I find like this is kind of like what this course is. There's just a lot of these little punchy areas where you're just going to have to keep attacking
and also be in the right gear.
Yeah.
Because you're coming off of a descent into a really like sudden, pitchy climb. And if you're in the wrong gear, you're just going to bog down. So think moto downshift before you get to the apex of the turn.
Yeah. So then, we've got this, I think it's about a half-mile descent here along this other lagoon. And then once again, it's this sharp right-hand turn, which I've never gotten down. I don't have any good video of me handling this one correctly, but you're going at a lot of speed. It gets a little bit loose here in the corner, but it's not too technical, but this is kind of like a different aspect of the race. Is it's not just these efforts, but some of these, how you handle these technical parts as well.
And the camber of that corner does not help you in cornering, meaning it's an off camber kind of pitch. So it forces you out of the corner, which then makes your tire traction, you know what I'm saying? So you're carrying speed, you go into that off camber right-hander that wants to push you left. So you gotta be paying real good attention.
It's off camber and it's loose. So double whammy.
Yep.
Yeah. And I kind of think like now we're already at mile 10, so about a third of the way through the lap. And I think like this entire back section is kind of like the part by the village in that, there's a small gradual climb in here, not too much to really separate yourself from somebody else. But then I also know this little turn here, I always seem to overshoot as well.
Yep. I've been there, man. Yep. You just that's a slightly downhill, and it is more hairpinny than you think when you get to it. And it's like, oh geez, I got it. Yeah.
The left or the right? Which one are you guys talking about?
This one here.
The right-hander, I think. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I think it's just, I think of, it's almost like a circuit race where, it's, you may be super fast, but you really have to know how to come out of that turn. Otherwise you may get dropped.
And to Vic's earlier point, shifting there is super critical because even more so, you're carrying a lot of speed in, and then all of a sudden you're coming out of that corner with no speed because you've been on the brakes and you're in the wrong gear. Man, your legs are yelling at you. They're yelling at you.
Yeah, I can't believe I poo-pooed electronic shifting for too many years.
Curmudgeon. Told you.
That's it, man.
So, I mean, for those of people that aren't, that are just here, not the super competitive side, like this part is really pretty out here, getting to see the
beautiful. Yep.
But it's a nice way to chomp off the miles, and it's more about like not getting dropped than really probably making it any important race moves here.
Yep.
But then we've got this little. Did I miss it already? No. I had this as a high point, but it's not really that big. But then we kind of turn off and we hit the back area over here, and it still seems to be pretty fast. It's not really until we hit this section here around the halfway point where it really kind of like turns up another notch. I think I missed it. Wait, no. Did I miss it? No, I take it back. I know there's this little. I'm sorry, I got trails here.
You missed the single track.
Yeah, it's kind of like a single double track.
Yes.
This one here. This is the one I meant to see. This I can't remember the name of the trail, but I know
it's called Border Road. Border Road.
Okay. Yeah, and I know it's a little sandy in spots, but I think when we did it, it was not as sandy as previous years.
It was just the beginning, just the entrance of it.
Yes.
Sandy.
Yes. That's
and it's
correct.
fairly wide right there, so you can pick your line if it's congested.
Yeah, and I think
in years past it's been really deep beach, what I call beachy sand, right? Beach sand, but you're right. When I was out there the other day scouting and checking what's been going on with this recent moisture, it's actually pretty good right now. Pretty good.
Yeah, I imagine it's a good time and really packed in. Okay, now I know where we are. So then we kind of like we come off of here. I know there's a little slight pitch here. I didn't include that, but then we've got like some really fast paved road here, and then this is just another pitchy climb to get into. That you're still kind of it's just another minute and a half, 2 minute effort probably
Yep.
to get you up here, and it's just at the halfway point. And then I thought what was interesting on the way down, it's our first piece of single track, but it's just this little small narrow pathway here. That I think like one of the things that I noticed there is like you kind of lose eyesight. So if you're trying to keep track of people, it may be a part where if you're not paying attention, you might not know where everyone in your group is.
That's correct. Yep. You can lose the line of sight easy in this section. Yes.
So then, once again, I remember this part here, there was a little bit of sandiness, and, I kind of like made the mistake of like prepping myself for more sandiness, which there wasn't. So
Right.
It's just one of those things like you just really on this course have to have confidence. It's just like sometimes like when you these things hit you, you get prepared for them, but they're not there.
When you say prepping yourself, you mean mentally or equipment wise?
Mentally.
Mentally.
You just kind of like maybe you're taking the gas off a little bit, and we're like about mile 16.
Yep.
You can follow the numbers on the graph on the bottom as well. But
we access this for the first time. This section is called the Hay Rake Trail, and it's county owned. So the paved road is BLM, but as soon as you get on the section you're describing, the Hay Rake Trail, that's county owned. So it's the first time we've been able to access the county trails in this section. And this was a good addition that it was an addition we needed to make when I was reconning to get the miles. This was a great way to add miles that aren't single track, that are a little bit wider, that are a little more like a fire road, still allows some passing and gives you a whole different perspective on what's available out there to ride.
Yeah. And, and this is all the new section of the course back here. And
Yes.
It's pretty intriguing. And I know this looks a little strange with all these lines crossing each other, but this will be a pretty playful intersection. I know we kind of like come off here around mile 18, another dirt climb that kind of continues on the right-hand turn. I think we did this portion here last year.
Yeah.
The turn.
Yep.
Same thing, like, another thing of where you just have to be attentive. It's like a 5-6% most of the way here.
Yep.
And it's just like, it's just like the volume keeps coming up on these. The second half I feel like is where you get like it's more bam, bam, bam.
And you'll also notice on this side, as probably you guys did, there's more wind on this side than there is on the other side. Because you're closer to the ocean. This is the western side, and it just seems to come right off the ocean to this side much heavier than noticing it on the other side of Fort Ord. Yeah.
And I definitely feel that. I know like a couple more climbs later is where I felt it the most. Now then here at mile 20, we've got single track. How many people have been in your ear and asking to put single track back in after last year?
It's amazing the split, right? There's those that embrace and there are those that detest, like the whole mechanical versus electronic shifting today. But no, yes, and this was really the only option to extend miles, and I struggled with it. But I like the addition. I think it's a nice add to this race course. I think it works. The way it flows, I think it works.
Yeah, I found that, even though it's single track, it's mostly uphill. There's a couple small turns where you have a little bit downhill, but still a thing of the race dynamics. There is room to pass. It's not that narrow of a single track. So yeah, it's just definitely another thing where electronic shifting will be very important, because you're with these tight turns here, and maybe shifting in and out of gears constantly. I know, like when Vic and I were doing it, we're going at a moderate clip, but it's far more different at race pace.
Yeah, I was going to say it's super twisty and turny, more so than it looks on this map to me.
So then we come out here, and once again, like a nice part to catch your breath. I know we've got a little bit of downhill here, but like I said, it does feel sticky. You do feel the wind, and then we return to this climb that we had last year, and it's kind of like last year. I did it on a pre-ride. I did it 3 times. I did it on 2 pre-rides and the actual race. And before I made the video, I just was looking at kind of like traditional, wind direction, and it doesn't. It goes almost in every direction normally than helping you here.
Yeah. Yes.
And I didn't say that right in the video. I think I made it a little more clouded, my definition, but it's definitely swirling. And it's another one where I think it's a little bit longer than the others. I don't feel like it's as steep in parts, but it's one where the wind becomes a big factor, and then kind of like getting to the peak will seem like it takes you longer than you're probably planning on doing.
Also, when you're coming at it from that straight road before you make the left, it looks super imposing.
It does.
Looking feature of the whole race, because you can see it coming from a long way.
Yes.
Be smaller as you're approaching.
And if you need to take water or feed at the bottom, because that's our second feed zone location, right? You also now have scrubbed all your speed to take that feed, right?
Yes.
And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm looking up at that.
Yep.
Holy moly. Yeah. It really gets you.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, don't tell anybody, but my strategy is probably just to wait for that first aid station on the second lap, me doing 2 laps. And hopefully that'll be enough to get through. So then from here, there's a lot of time to think in terms of like preparing yourself for the next part of the race. I know it's super fast here. This is another turn coming down that I overshoot.
No, you're right. You come down and you're taking a right onto Machine Gun Flats and then crossing the paved road, Hennigan Road. Yep. And then you're going across. Yep.
And I remember last year, this little section here was 2-way. So I'm glad that it's 1-way.
I didn't like it 2-way with the cones in the middle.
Yeah. Yep. I thought people were pretty we had 2 sections last year that were like that, and I thought people were pretty respectful. So
it's still scary when people are coming right at you the opposite direction at race pace.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Bad design on me. I take full responsibility for that judgment. That was my bad design. Yep.
Jeff, it's all good.
Yeah. And so then coming out here, this is like another famous overshoot turn. We've got a little climb here once we come out, but then it's super rocketed action down, and we're about 5 miles to go. And this is, I broke them up into kind of like 2 climbs, but I know there's a gate here. The gate will be open for the race, right?
Yes, and so you know that descent into that gate, the locals call that when you ride uphill, that's the wall. So that's
Mhm.
Barlow Canyon Road, and if you were to ride it in the opposite direction, coming towards the bunkers where you just came out of Machine Gun Flats, that's called the wall. So to your point, that is ripping fast. And when you get to the bottom, yes, that gate will be open, so you shoot straight up to the Barlow Canyon climb. Yep.
That's sweet.
No.
That was fun section. You could just tuck in and just
Yeah.
Yep.
fly.
Now, I think the funny part is like, you know, once you kind of like cross the road, you start the climb and you're kind of like, this isn't that bad. And it's not till you turn off. And I found that this little section here was the most difficult of the day. And part of it is the pitch, but also, you know, there's a few ruts in there. And this will be a real interesting section if there's other people around.
Yeah, this is a choose your line very carefully section, right? Because you can get in the bad spot and have to dismount and come around, and then it's going to be really hard to remount on this anywhere. And you're right, it's steeper than it looks on this, and it is rutted. But the surface is good. That's the thing. It's not loose. It's a really nice surface, so you do get traction.
This is where they had the drum line a couple of years ago.
No, that's at the top
No.
of this coming up.
Oh,
That's coming
oh,
up.
oh,
Yep,
okay.
yep, yep.
Never mind. I'm too far away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait,
And
wait.
then-
So I don't remember this one.
This is new. This is the first time we've used this is called Barlow Spur. This is the first time we've used this in a race.
Yeah. You may or may not have walked part of the section when we were shooting.
Oh, okay. Shut up, Zach. Don't tell my secrets.
It may or may not. I don't know.
That's because you were going so slow, then I had to get off because you were blocking my way. It's true.
All right.
You went
To my
slow
point.
enough, and then I spun out and I had to push.
To my point,
Right.
you got to pick your line, right?
That's right. Okay, now I remember. Yeah.
Okay.
This was the hardest part to me.
Yeah, that was the hardest part.
That was the hardest
And then,
part. Of the lap.
So then I remember we had like 3 little pitches here,
Yep.
and you know, then we've got a little bit of a downhill, which I don't know if you can collect that much speed. I know it's a little patchy here, not terrible, but definitely where we're going to have to grip a little bit. And then you know, we've got, you know, the same drum climb, with, you know, people may remember from not last year but the year before. And I think it was on the first 2 editions.
Yes.
And I know, like, going into it and making the video, Vic and I were like dreading this part. And then when we did it, we were like, that's it. Yeah. And it's not that we've become like better riders or technology's advanced that much, but I think you were noting before that they actually took care of the surface.
Yes. The PLM tries to manage this section of road because it can become, with the water, can become really rutted and really nasty to ride. We used to descend this back in the day when we did race courses out this way, and because of the condition, there was a lot of carnage on that section. So now we use it for climbs, and it's really become an iconic part of the gravel racing at Otter, what we call the Lookout Ridge climb. It's really, people know about it, they talk about it, riders do, and at the top where I think that's whatever that mile marker is. I'm sorry, I can't see it so well. That's where the drum line is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what I was thinking. This one also has not that it matters, but it has nice wildflowers on the edge.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. Oh no, and they're beautiful right
I
now.
looked at them during the race, but on the Recon ride, I noticed, wow, this is really gorgeous around here.
Yep, they're beautiful right now. Yep.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think we about a mile and a half left, probably in the lap. I know we kind of wiggle our way out. We kind of meet up briefly where with last year's course, I guess the finish line was here.
Right. Yeah.
But once again, what's different from last year's course was last year's course kind of like went right back in. But here we're exiting out onto the track, and we've got this. I don't think I've actually ridden up this way. I've gone down it, but I imagine it's going to be quite the pitch right here just to finish off with.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the world famous corkscrew, right, on the raceway. So now you're climbing the corkscrew and not descending it. It is yes. It's going to be a challenge.
Corkscrew, but we're starting kind of in the middle. Or is that the bottom?
No, that's the bottom. You're starting at the bottom.
Wow. Oh, yeah, that's going to be tough.
Yep.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that part. Oh, damn.
Now, and then when we kind of like come back in, we're going to be on the, I guess, like the infield part, the dirt.
Yep.
What I remember is it's a little bit more. It's probably the most washboardy section probably of the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was funny because like when we were there shooting the video, we saw bulldozers and stuff kind of like working on certain parts of the course. So, we can't. Well, we're not allowed to go in to the course ahead of time, but 2, they were working on it. And then, I guess we come back out, make this hairpin.
Wait, I have a question. So at this hairpin where you turn around, is there some kind of, how do you know where to go to turn around?
Well, you'll think of it as a course. It's not going to be, we'll have it fenced. So it's not going to be it's not going to be a sharp hairpin. It's going to be it'll be a curve using the whole width of the track. So this line that's drawn does not depict what will actually be on the ground.
Yeah, that looks pretty tight and sharp.
Yeah. I mean, it won't be that harsh of a corner, but it's a good depiction. It's about that far. We'll probably go 100 meters beyond the finish line. So when you come out of that hairpin, you still could have a sprint if you're in contention at about 100, 150 meters to the finish line.
So you have to make that turn before. That's not the finish when you pass through it.
No, you make the left-hander, the Sea Otter bridge right there where the cursor is. That's the finish line. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
Unless you're doing 2 or 3 laps.
Unless you're doing, and right past the start-finish line at turn 5 is where that neutral support, bag drop, team support area is. So there are really 3 on-course aid stations, the one at feed zone 1, feed zone 2, and then the one just up course from where the cursor is. So when you start your second and third lap, that's where you can drop your bag, can have family, friends, team support there. There'll be neutral water as well.
Ooh. Okay, that's good to know.
I'm not looking forward to climbing up the corkscrew after all that. I can't lie. Like, oh my God. It's so steep going down. I've never gone up it, obviously. I've gone down it. Oh, my God. What's the pitch on that? What's the...
I knew that at one time. You're right. It's significant. I think I want to say 13, 14, 15%.
It's got to be.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. I remember them talking about the car racing guys talk about that all the time.
I need to know because it's got to be 15 or more.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. It'll show up on Strava after.
It will.
Yeah. Oh man.
My daughter last year, we rode down it. I didn't know how she was going to take it, but she released the brakes and she had such a blast on. Her biggest thing was going on the racetrack. So this will be a lot of rocket fuel out here. We went through the whole thing. Let me pull off some other things, but Jeff, we're pretty excited about next week. A great course you've put in there.
Good job,
thank you guys. Thanks for your feedback.
Yeah.
And the person asking about how technical the single track is, definitely not.
No.
I think it's a great piece. I know that like maybe year 1 there was stuff that you would probably want a mountain bike for.
Was an XC course. That was all. It's not
nothing. Yeah, this was. I know there are a few other portions too that also have great single track. Sometimes you do have to use a little bit of the heavy mountain bike, but this is none of that. So other than that, well, Jeff,
Thank you.
To rest up, all of us, and
Yeah.
we'll see you out there. I guess Wednesday, Thursday. We're gonna watch the gravel race on Thursday before.
Awesome. Cool. Cool.
Let them set the times, and then we'll beat them the next day.
That's right.
There you go. There you go. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate all your support and good job. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Have a good week.
Okay. Take care.